everybody, it's Safi and Marco, Dish Out on the Movies. And today is my review, which I don't know how it's going to go, but it's of Morbius. And it's a brand new movie, and it stars Jared Leto. I don't know who the other people are. The girl looks familiar. And what did I think of the movie, or what should I say? Marco's already reviewed it, basically.
Well, let's just discuss it. After another day, I still hate it. I hate it just as much as I hated it yesterday. And I'm not buying this weird narrative where people are saying that only critics hate the movie and audiences love it. It's like God, why do the audiences... If that's the case, then why do the audiences love such trash? Is this really the future of movies that you guys want? Don't you want good movies? Because this was terrible. And one of the issues is that I can barely even remember the movie after having watched it yesterday. I can barely even remember, I can remember the stuff I mentioned in my review because... I don't know. It was just so bad.
Okay.
And I thought it would be the perfect movie for you to watch and review since you hate Jared Leto so much. And I thought
I don't hate Jared Leto.
Yeah, you
it's
do.
Just he's weird.
Every time he's mentioned, you're like, ugh. And so I thought it'd be the perfect movie for you to review, and I thought you'd really hate it. So did you hate it, Safi?
I guess I could have just done without watching it. We were just talking, and I suggested that this movie was an introduction of the character to viewing audiences. Not everybody has read the comic book, or the comic books where he appears as a character amongst other characters.
Which is funny because he is a Spider-Man villain. So, number one, there's no Spider-Man in the movie, which was trash.
Yeah.
Number two, this story is basically a cookie-cutter story that could have been told inside a Spider-Man movie. If you think about it, you could actually cut you could cut up this movie into pieces, and then you could shoot a bunch of new Spider-Man scenes, and then it would just be like a normal Spider-Man movie.
Yeah, because they introduced other characters. The bad guy with all the arms, Doctor.
Oh, don't even try, Safi.
Well, I know, but that was like
bad.
an introduction of a character into the movie, a bad character,
and it's the same type of thing.
It's the same. It would be the same kind of thing.
If they just cut all the Doc Ock scenes out of that movie and put it as a movie and called it Ock, then that would literally be this movie. That's literally what this movie is.
Right, and so, but I just felt like the movie was very incomplete, and it was almost like let's say you make yourself chocolate milk, and you don't mix all the chocolate into the milk.
Ew.
And then you drink the milk, but at the very bottom there's this chocolate
powder,
or even the
chalky powder,
even the that Hershey syrup that didn't get mixed in there, and that's why it wasn't as chocolatey as it could have been, because it wasn't mixed together properly. And that's what this movie felt like. It felt like the chocolate at the bottom of a glass that didn't get mixed into a regular movie.
It is unfortunate, though, because you could have had a really good movie. I mean, I really think, after thinking about it, I do think that Jared Leto could still be a good Morbius. I just think that he needed a better script and a better movie. And Safi, I told you about this yesterday. I do not like those tokenized characters. His girlfriend, she's supposed to be a white blonde woman.
Yeah, she was okay. I've seen her before. What's she been in?
I don't know. She was really average.
Very familiar.
She was so boring, and it's like you took this
she had
really...
a one note. She was like a one note
You took this
acting.
really good character from the comics, and then you just tokenized her and made her this boring cardboard cutout.
And it's a shame because I've seen that girl. I think she seems to be okay, but I don't remember what I saw her in, but yeah, she was a one-note actress.
Yeah.
She didn't have any other, really much of a range of anything.
And then, of course, the detective, the guy from the Fast and Furious movies.
Oh, I wouldn't know about that.
He was another tokenized character.
And he was completely one note.
Yeah.
And I know that couldn't have been his fault because he didn't get that many lines.
Him and his partner, I will say this.
They were both goofy. One was goofy and the other one was serious. But
they were the worst part of the movie.
Yeah.
Completely.
They never changed their...
And they basically... They had no purpose in the movie either. They literally didn't do anything except for...
the cops were poor in the movie. That was another thing I didn't even know. Investigate means...
Oh, I guess
at the end, they see a pit, and all these bats fly out of the pit, and they watch them fly out, and they go, ooh. And then...
They didn't investigate. They basically walked around looking at things like they're on a roller coaster ride, like looking at displays that are around, like, oh, look, what's that? Oh, that's going on? Oh, that's pretty interesting.
But you're putting more acting in it than there was.
Oh, sorry. Well,
one was just like a goofy guy. It was like Goofy. Well, I don't want to insult Goofy. He was just like he had this shit-eating grin on his face and those glasses, and
he's basically every modern movie character ever.
And then the other guy, the African-American guy, he was just mad all the time. He never changed his demeanor.
And he's another character who is supposed to be white, like in the comics. Okay, and in the comics, he's basically, I guess he's Morbius's main antagonist aside Spiderman. And he's supposed to be like a vampire hunter, Van Helsing type character.
Oh, he's not that at all.
Sorry, but I didn't get that at all.
I didn't get that at all either. I don't know where that came from.
Whether he's black or white or whatever color he is.
It doesn't matter. They didn't give him the lines or the story to do that.
Yeah, he didn't even give off Van Helsing, and it's too bad because I would have really liked to have seen like a Van Helsing type of character.
Yeah, that would have been good too.
This movie just felt so incomplete.
Well,
it felt like it just feels like Sony, they don't give a shit about their audience. They don't give a shit about the comics. And they just wanted to make a quick buck and say, look, oh, here's Morbius. Finally.
I don't know. I just so what it was basically, it was I've never heard of that character. Well, I guess he was in that last Spider-Man movie.
What character?
Morbius?
No, he's not been in any Spider-Man movie
What was that?
ever.
What was that? It wasn't Jared Leto in that movie?
No, he was in the shitty Justice League.
Who was that? Who was
What are you talking about?
In the last Spider-Man movie,
There's no Morbius in the Spider-Man movie.
Who was the nemesis then?
The 6 bad guys who Spider-Man wanted to cure. Remember, he wanted to cure them.
That.
He wanted to cure them and then send them back to their universes so that they could be nice, happy people.
Oh no, I was thinking about the guy in Europe.
What Europe?
In Europe, when they were on the European trip.
Yeah, that was like years ago. That was Mysterio.
Oh, another M, a different, a different
what?
guy. Okay, well, both start with an M. Well, that just shows how bad the movie is. I mean, so anyway, it was, as I said, it was an introduction of a character from this series of comic book characters, and they show him as a little boy, and that went by in 2 seconds.
He has like a 5-minute childhood, which that's another issue, is that if you're going to put effort into having some sort of a childhood section, then it needs to be longer than 5 minutes. A 5-minute montage of like the best of hits. Like, it needs to be longer than that. I mean, I don't know how many times. It's basically the opposite of all these movies that are too long. This movie is too short. And it's not only too short in length, but it's too short in substance.
The thing is, you can have a TV series show, like I said, Grimm, the very first episode, it was an introduction of a character, but that was an hour or so, and it had more in it than that movie had in its same time. It's an effective use of time, and they didn't use it at all. They just, in this thing where he's a little boy, well, he's a very interesting kid. I thought he was a really good actor. There's another boy, and they're both ill with something. I have no idea. I never got that. It was like they had cerebral palsy or almost.
It's a blood disease or something. I don't know.
Oh, well, they both had crutches. And so they were both hobbling about, and they didn't have much strength. And then, through a series of circumstances, the guy who's going to be Morbius, he went on and lived somewhere else, and he said, I'll be back with a cure for you and me, and we can live a normal life. And then the other kid stayed there, and it's this, I don't know what it is. It's like a permanent hospital or something. I didn't know, a research facility. I have no idea. And so he stayed behind, and he got bullied. And so I guess this is why...
I've never seen that in a movie before.
I guess that's why he had a different attitude at the end. And they turned out to be... They took this serum or whatever that I guess Morbius invented, because he's kind of like a genius. And...
Except for the fact that he's not, and he spends most of the movie not knowing what's going on.
Well, I don't know. Well, I guess I spent most of the movie not knowing what was going on. I wrote out a little list of questions, and before we started doing this review, I asked Marco. He didn't even know the answer to most of them.
Safi started interrogating me about the movie. And I was like, I don't know. This movie sucked. It was terrible. It was a piece of shit.
I mean, we've seen these long movies where we don't learn anything, and now we have a short movie where they could have packed it in, and instead it was the same thing. And it was a presentation of a character. You got basically a one-dimensional, 1.5-dimensional character out of the beginning. And what happens is, I guess he does invent some kind of something, but it turns him into a Dracula. And he gives it to the other guy, or the other guy just took it without
the other guy
permission.
took it, I guess.
Okay. And so what were both two boys who were hobbling about and in sickly condition and getting transfusions or whatever, and all kinds of things like that. And weak, and the one's getting bullied. The other one just stays away from everybody and just does work because he's a genius. That's Morbius. But the thing is so they take this medicine, it turns him into like Dracula, superhuman figures who can do anything.
Except for act.
Yeah, whatever. And but the thing is, there's a difference between the two. This is what I didn't understand, is that Morbius has some kind of extra power that this other guy didn't have. And the other...
I had no idea what powers they had and didn't have, because they had a bunch of random powers that just come out of nowhere, like...
Well, this one was the ultimate power.
One of them has like a scream or something that conjures bats, and they can like
Morbius.
Float around, and they can they have dust coming out of their hands that's like computer generated dust when they fight each other for some reason. Like, I have no idea what powers they have at all. And it's funny because also you have that Spider-Man animated series episode about Morbius, and that episode is a lot shorter than this movie, and I knew exactly what happened in that episode, which is that the key to this character, it's a very simple character. Like, this movie tried to complicate it in ways that, like, because part of the problem with movies nowadays is that they don't know how to tell stories.
No, they don't.
They really don't. Like, they have all this exposition they gotta do, and they can't even explain it good enough for the audience in a way that makes sense because they just suck so badly at writing.
Maybe
And
they need to read some books with
no,
stories.
no, they need to watch movies because it's a movie, Safi.
I know that, but if
And
they don't have a good story,
Safi, books tell stories on paper.
I
Movies
know that.
movies need to tell stories on screen.
Well,
and
they
part
can't
of
tell
the
a story anywhere, any way.
and part of the issue is the fact that they can't even tell movies on the screen because they're too busy with the shitty dialogue, where they say all these cliche lines like, "I don't want anything to happen to you. You have to stay here." You know, like lines that people have heard over and over and over and over again, like they've just been drilled into your skull. And you've been lobotomized by terrible movie writers, like the ones who wrote this movie are the same people who wrote Dracula Untold, which I never watched, but it figures because this movie looked a lot like that one did, and to me, it's questionable of why in the hell the Dracula Untold writers would be hired to write another Dracula movie when that movie failed miserably and people fucking hated it. But as I was saying, the animated series episode told this story a lot simpler, and it's a very simple character. It's Safi. This character is Dracula, except where instead of blood in general, he needs people's plasma. He has a blood disease, and he needs to feed off of people's plasma. It's a very simple character. It is the most simple. It is so simple. And they take that character, and I have no idea what he was in this movie. I don't know. I don't even know what he did to make himself a vampire at all or anything. Like, it's just so bad.
That's the thing. One, they were both had these superpowers because they both took this medicine. And like I said, the other one wasn't really given it to him voluntarily. Or it wasn't regulated, and he wasn't supposed to get any more. He just wasn't supposed to get it at all. I'm not sure. And so, but it turned them both into some kind of superhuman Dracula.
You've said that, Safi.
I know that,
You've
but
said
anyway, but the thing is, Jared Leto's power had an added bonus. It was like he was I don't know, like not sanctified, but he had this special power. So when he called these bats, and well, the thing is, he had this extra power the other guy didn't have and didn't know how to get, and maybe because he was so smart, I don't know, but that's how he used it to defeat him, because the other guy was killing people indiscriminately, and he was being bad. And
yeah, he's being a vampire. Oh no. It's almost like the character of what Morbius is supposed to be like. Because the character of Morbius is a bad guy.
Well, see, yeah, that's the thing. See, I didn't know this because I haven't seen all these other things that Marco is referring to.
What other things? I just saw a little episode of TV. It's a little episode of TV, Safi.
Okay, well, you're saying that he's this bad guy.
Yeah, he's a bad
but
guy.
In this movie, he's the better one.
Yeah, it's really weird. It's like what they did with Cruella, where it's like, oh no, Cruella's not bad at all. She loves animals, and it's like F off with this stupid crap. Like, stop destroying these good villain characters so that you can have more money. Basically, that's what it comes down to, is money. And what I found really bizarre and kind of like inappropriate was the fact that there were multiple times in this movie, and I forgot about this yesterday because when I watch these bad movies, I just don't even want to think about the specifics because they're so bad that they just piss me off to the point where I can't even think. Well, there were multiple times in the movie where they were playing music from The Dark Knight. And I was like, why in the hell are they playing other people's music?
I don't know.
They don't have permission for that.
I don't know. I didn't notice that.
You didn't? When he's
No.
with the bats and he's embracing the bats and they played that theme from The Dark Knight?
I don't know.
Yeah, that was really bad.
But, so anyway, I don't know what else there is to say
A
about
lot
this
more.
movie.
A lot more, Safi.
Not really,
Tons.
because it wasn't complete. I've seen episodes on TV of other shows where they introduced a character, and they did a better job than this movie ever did introducing a character. But you make a story.
Let's compare
And
this
there
to
wasn't any
vampires.
story.
Let's compare this to things that are actually related to the video. Let's compare this to vampire movies, Safi. Is this better than Bela Lugosi's Dracula?
No.
Is this better than any of the Christopher Lee Draculas?
No, not at all.
No way. Is this better than The Lost Boys or Fright Night?
No.
No. So this is not a good vampire movie. It sucks. It's trash. In fact, Safi, you're not going to believe this if you wake up now.
I'm awake!
Finally, we got some sort of energy coming out of Safi.
I'm just sick of this. I'm sick of seeing bad movies.
Well, that's what you get when you review movies. Well, at least movies from nowadays. But I actually think both Twilight movies that I've seen are way better than this movie.
Oh boy.
Yeah. That's pretty bad, isn't it, people? That's pretty bad.
I mean, the movie Batman, they're both bad, but they're different bad. And the Batman one, you could just kind of close your eyes and then 3 hours later you wake up and there wouldn't be anything new. That's basically what that movie was.
The Batman was way better than this.
This movie was,
because it told more of a story, at least. The acting was better, even though it was terrible. There were more things to like compared to this movie. More redeemable things, even though they're not redeemable if you look at the movie by itself. It's just if you compare the two. As you said, this movie has nothing to it. So how could you even say that this is better than that?
I didn't say it was better than that. I said
you
they're
did before
both
the video.
bad, but they're bad in different ways.
But you did say before the video that Batman was better than this.
I don't know. Batman was, I mean, like I said,
There's more things to like.
I didn't sleep. I did watch the whole thing because I was waiting for something to happen, and nothing did. And they're both bad, and I just getting tired of seeing bad movies. And to give Jared Leto credit, I think he'd be okay as that character. But actually, you know what I think? They should do the movie over again.
I know.
And write it completely different.
Better writers.
And then reintroduce them because, when you're a reseller, you do relisting all the time and you change the description, you might change the photographs. Well, that's what they need to do with this movie.
Yeah.
Because they show him as a kid, they talk a little bit, but they don't really, there's not much to it. And then all of a sudden he's an adult, and so is that other boy, and they get back together. And that other boy, I guess he has money.
And then he does an experiment, and they become vampires, and then Morbius gets blamed for all these murders, but then it turns out it's the best friend, and then they fight, and that's it. And it's like, was that really necessary? Like, this movie just felt completely useless.
Yeah, it was bare. So anyway, that's really basically the movie.
You're not even going to remember this movie in a week, Safi.
Well, I remember when they show his face and The thing about Jared Leto, he was perfect for the movie. And why? Because he looks like he's a concentration camp survivor. And I hate to say that because I'm not making light of that at all.
Well, that's because he's a vegan, so
but he just
that's what
looks
vegans
so.
look like.
What was I saying before? Like he's wasted. He's like he's starving to death, and he's so. I mean, he's perfect because at the beginning, or when he's an adult, they look weak, and they're kind of, and he's scrawny, and he's stooped, and that part's acting, and just kind of dragging around like he has zero energy.
The problem that I have with him is that he doesn't make any change as an actor in the movie. He goes from weak and weird and alien-like to
strong and weak and weird.
But he's not really strong.
No.
He's strong with the help of CGI. You can tell in real life he'd never be able to fight anyone except for like maybe a little woman on the street, maybe like a little person. Like he'd be able to fight her in a fair match, but he wouldn't be able to fight like anyone because he's just so scrawny and bony, and because he's a vegan, So what do you expect? And so he doesn't really make any transformation character-wise. He's just the whole movie. He's the same character. He's a weirdo, an alien person, and that's the problem, is that for this character to work, he needs to have a transformation. He needs to go from one way to another. It doesn't matter that he's sick. He still needs to go from being a sickly person to being like a strong, like a vampire, like Dracula. And I felt that in the animated series, that he was a very, very good villain. And in this movie, he's not. He's just a weak, feeble little bitch with his tokenized girlfriend, who's weak and feeble too. I mean, everyone in this movie acts like their blood has been drained from their bodies by vampires. Like, everyone in this movie acts like they have no energy, like Safi in certain reviews. Not this one. Not this one.
Whatever. There's not much to say about the movie.
Really?
I mean, if the movie didn't say much, how could we say much about it?
Because we're saying what they should do in the future.
Well, they should just do it over again.
Yeah.
And redo the story, enhance the story.
It really felt
and
like...
they have to make an effort to... Of course, you said you saw this in this animated show, but...
Yeah.
Why they both have this sickness? It's a similar sickness, okay? He and this other boy. And why is it that when they take this drug that I guess Morbius invented, because he's real smart, and he was in a lab.
I guess.
I guess. I'm not for sure.
Can't remember.
And why is it that how is it that he has this extra power where when he really gets angry or he really needs to do something to help somebody, he calls on these bats or something, and it's like they fly around him, and they fly just in this area where he is, and there's so many, it's like a fog of bats.
I'll say this too, Safi. You know what else? You know what I just thought of is that the Subspecies movies are way better than this. And in fact, the guy in Subspecies, Radu, he is a much better Morbius than Morbius in this movie. And so they need to either look at the Subspecies movies, or they need to get the people who made Subspecies to make a Morbius movie, because that is how you do Morbius. Wouldn't you agree, Safi?
I guess, but it's just...
Like, that guy was a lot scarier, a lot stronger, a lot cooler than this dweeb. this little 90-pound guy.
Yeah, but they need to. I just say go back to the drawing board. You have the money, make the movie, but don't make it like it was. You need to change it like complete. In fact, this should have been edited, and somebody should have looked at the edited copy, which would have been the final product, which is what we saw, and then said, no, this isn't going to do.
Another thing is, the ratings board, they're so pussified nowadays that, movies have become so babyish and so childish, immature. They don't have any nudity, any violence. And one of the issues is that, Safi, do you agree with this statement? There has never been and never will be a good vampire movie that's not rated R. And I know the Hammer...
And it wasn't rated R?
No, it was PG-13. And the Hammer movies, they weren't rated R, but they would have been today with the pussified ratings board. And so I really think that this movie needed to be rated R. It needed to be an R-rated vampire movie. If it's not rated R, it's not going to be good. It's as simple as that. Because there's no sexuality in this movie, which is something that's always in any good vampire movie. There's no blood or violence in this movie except for like some computer generate. I mean, did you notice that, Safi, that you could tell that all the blood was computer blood, like fake blood that they created on the computer? Like just ugh. Like can't we make good movies again? Like it's 2022. Like isn't it time to go back to making good movies and get out of this period of trash?
Well, I would think so. I mean, I don't know how well this movie will do at the box office, but...
I mean, just think about, Safi, House of Dark Shadows. That was a movie based off of a series that was for everyone. And you watched it as a kid after school every day. Right, Safi? Wake up.
No, I'm awake. I'm just thinking about, well, never mind.
Thinking about Bernie, the cat, right next to you.
No, I'm just thinking about, I'm trying to think about how to rate it. That's one thing I'm thinking.
Well, with that House of Dark Shadows movie, that's a perfect example of what this movie should have been. Because if you look at that movie, they took a show that's supposedly for everyone, and they made a really dark, violent, bloody movie. I mean, that movie has a lot of blood. It is very scary, intense horror movie, and it's a movie you wouldn't want to watch in the dark alone. And it's a perfect, just make a movie like that. Like that's what vampire movies are supposed to be. They're not supposed to be what this movie is, because this movie, it really wasn't even a vampire movie. Like it didn't even have everything that a good vampire movie would have. And that's part of the problem.
Well,
Safi.
I guess the basic problem is why is Jared Leto's powers stronger or more diverse or have more power?
You're just obsessed with Jared Leto's power.
Well, because the other guy was just as strong. He was killing people. He had a chip on his shoulder. And that's the thing that surprises me. You're telling me Morbius is the bad guy.
Yeah, he is.
But he wasn't in this movie. He was a guy who had powers, but he was actually a good guy. He actually loved that woman.
Well, he has the same tragedy that all these other Spider-Man villains have, is that they have some sort of an issue that needs fixing. Like with Doc Ock, he had his wife, and then he killed her on accident, and then the arms took control of him. It's the same type of thing where Morbius, he doesn't want to kill people, but he has this disease, and so he has to kill people and get their effing plasma. So it's like he has no choice. Safi, you're falling
I
asleep
know.
again.
I'm just thinking. I don't know what else to say about it. There's nothing much to the movie. We've basically said what it's about and what it isn't.
Say a review.
It needs to be renewed. It needs to be redone. Completely redone. They need to take it in. They need to tear it up or cut it up, I guess. And they need to start all over and keep Jared Leto as the person. He's fine. And you could even keep the other guy as the friend
No.
if you want.
No.
I don't care.
Not after this
movie.
movie.
But you need to redo the movie. It just is not...
He was so bad, like in that scene where he's doing push-ups and doing, like, dancing around. Like, I just... Ugh.
Well, you know what he reminded me of? He reminded me of the Joker.
Really?
Yeah. A lot. I was thinking...
He would be a better Joker than the character in this movie, actually.
He really, that's what he reminded me of. And I was, all this stuff is going on while I'm watching this movie. And so I'm having to concentrate on it. And it's just, but he really, and you listen to him too, you think, am I watching the other kind of movie or I'm watching this Morbius movie? Because he reminded me of the Joker. So, and the thing, like I said, I'm puzzled that Morbius, who's supposed to be a villain, is actually, quote, kind of a good guy. He liked his doctor. He was very upset. In fact, that was part of the reason I was so upset. He got killed by the guy. And the guy, he helped the other guy too. He's helped them since they were children.
But he hasn't aged at all.
And he didn't age. And that was another mystery. The doctor who took care of him, they show them as boys. And they show him as the certain person. He has a beard and everything. And then, now you flip to the future. You have Morbius and this other guy. And the doctor hasn't changed at all. He hasn't aged at all. But the other guys did. The younger guys, they came to be adults. They're in their, 30s or 20s. I don't know. They seem like they're in their 30s. And that was another mystery thing. But anyway, when he took that medicine and he changed into a bad guy, the other guy, not Morbius, he killed the doctor. And he also killed the girl. And that girlfriend of Morbius's. And and she was a one-note actress.
Just stop explaining.
Well, it's just
stop with your explaining.
Well, then let's
bullshit.
Stop the review. And
Well, give your food rating. Or give your food rating then.
Oh God.
That's what it all comes down to. If you give your food rating, then the review can end.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you something.
You're like sleeping through
How
this whole
about?
review.
That's because there's just nothing to it. And anyway, I've
Doesn't
been
matter.
reading better mystery books than this stupid movie.
There was nothing to that Flood movie, and it was a better review than this.
Yeah, probably. So I guess I would give it a taco without any with meat in it, but it doesn't have anything else. They can't do the lettuce because there's a recall. They can't do the tomatoes because there's a recall. So all they do is put a sprinkling of cheddar cheese on it, and that's it. And there's hardly any cheese. And that would be what this movie is. And basically, this past, the March, I'll just say, we have had some meals that have been really not good.
Yeah, like the one we had last night.
Yeah. And it was my anniversary. And
well, let's just say it made us both sick.
It was a terrible, and this has happened like the last 3 special meals we had. We had Marco's birthday dinner.
Terrible,
and
uneatable.
Was it Robert? And then my husband's, was it his birthday dinner or my birthday dinner? And none of it.
No, for your birthday, didn't we go to, what was that place called? I can't remember. It doesn't matter.
Well,
but we've just
nothing
had
has been
terrible
good.
meals.
And
they reflect in how bad these movies are too.
I
It's
know
almost like
it's a parallel universe.
they're
between,
working in conjunction of
Yeah.
like making terrible things.
between bad food at good restaurants, supposedly good.
Yeah, like 5-star restaurants.
I wouldn't say that.
4
And
stars.
Then, about one, and
No,
not even
that's
that.
what they're supposedly.
I don't know.
And then we go there and it's like, ooh, this is like 0 out of 5 stars for me.
We're living in it. I mean, we live in a food desert. So when we talk about these meals that we have, and we compare the movie and give it a rating of some kind of food we've had it, and it's not hard to come up with these bad food because we just get bad food constantly.
Even for Salem's Lot, just think about Salem's Lot. That's a TV movie. That's the most tame you could get.
It's
way better. It's way better than this movie.
miniseries,
That doesn't matter. It's way better than this movie.
It would be
even though it's still like a TV movie and
they
it's
could
tame.
probably edit it a little bit, but it would be
No, I don't
a
want
regular
them to edit
movie, and it would be, and it is comparable to this. In other words, it could be a movie compared to another quote movie.
Salem's Lot is perfect. It's a masterpiece.
It's really a good movie.
And it's way better than this trash. So it just shows that, like, they can't make anything good nowadays, and they can't even make a good vampire movie, which really doesn't require much. Like, vampire movies are really simple.
Actually, there's a
movies to
formula
make.
to them, and you just like Marco said, and so if you have that, and that's why I say they're not either they're not watching other movies. I mean, it's just like when you read a book, and you could read 50 books. Well, the more you read, the easier it is to spot the good ones versus the bad ones, because there's certain elements, a good story, good characters, and for a movie, of course, you have all this visual stuff that you layer onto that. And if you don't have a good story and good characters, then you come up with kind of a movie with this, because it was shortened, too short. It was chopped up into a mush. And like I had last night's salmon, it was mush, overcooked. And the characters aren't going to matter, but the characters weren't that good either. So that didn't matter anyway.
Well,
So
Safi,
you really didn't have anything redeeming about it, except I thought your Leto, he would be fine as a character. No problem at all.
if he acts better in the next one, that is.
I suppose, but
If there's actually a distinction between the character before he becomes a vampire and the character afterwards.
and there's none.
There's none.
None, because it's just the only difference is he has powers.
But get off of his powers. You're just obsessed with his powers.
Well, he's able to defeat this other guy. He was bad.
Yeah,
because he had this extra whatever.
There's tons of movies with people with powers.
Well, whatever. That's it.
No, well, actually, speaking of food, can we just both agree that Jared Leto needs to eat a cheeseburger?
I don't know if he needs to eat. He needs to eat something.
Yeah.
Because he just looks so... I mean, that's what I say. He was perfect for the part and the way he looks. He's so decrepit looking.
Have Captain Marvel make you a sandwich.
Give you a sandwich. At least have a peanut butter and jelly sandwich with butter.
Have like a 10-layer peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
I mean, you're not like me, where I would love to eat more and I can't, and there's hardly anything I can eat, and so I'm hungry all the time, and I don't see how he couldn't be hungry. He just looks so decrepit.
Because his stomach is filled with God.
don't know about that. That has nothing to do with veganism. Maybe it's him personally. I don't know anything about that.
Well, I think he like started a cult or something this one time. I don't know.
I don't know
I heard
anything
about
about
that
that.
before, but
All I know is he looks decrepit.
he is willing to eat because he did another movie where he played the guy who killed what was that guy, that John Lennon,
Oh,
you know
yeah?
him. He played him in a movie and he got just as fat as him.
Oh,
So
really?
so that's really bizarre how
That is bizarre.
he wasn't able to do that for this. He wasn't able to look like a person for this movie. He looks more like those stick insects on the ground. You know, those stick insects that hop around everywhere. Not grasshoppers, but like, remember in Kipper when they had the pets and they had the insects and there was like a stick. It's just like a stick bug. Like that's what Jared Lesbo is. He's like a stick bug.
Okay.
In terms of acting too.
I don't know. Okay, so anyway, that's the end of our review. I think we beat this horse to death.
And had its blood.
And so anyway, if you like this movie, or well, if you like this video, press the like button and subscribe. Subscribe, because we enjoy having new subscribers. I welcome any discussion or commentary about this movie. What did you think about it?
There's some people who said it was
missing?
fun. They said it was a fun movie and they didn't understand why the critics didn't like it.
Well, the thing is, they did have some special effects, but it doesn't matter if you don't have a good story. None of it matters because it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't.
Yeah.
It doesn't. What does it tell you? That's what I'm saying. He had these extra powers. Well, how come he has them and the other guy doesn't? And the extra powers are these special effects. They're shown in these special effects. And when they fight each other, there's special effects for that. But the thing is, when Jared Leto finally gathers his secret mojo power, then he defeats him. He had to call onto the bats. I'm thinking, like, is this supposed to be Batman now? And so he calls upon the bats, and the bat, or what, he didn't really do that, but I'm saying, I don't know what. The bats come, and as soon as the bats come, he has this mystical, magical power that the other guy doesn't have, and he defeats them.
Safi.
So anyway, I don't care if it's spoiled for you. I'm sorry, but there's
there's
not
all you do
much
is explain.
to this movie. It's
just
bare.
Explain.
It's naked.
You're like a museum guide where you're just like.
It's like you have your underwear on. You don't put the rest of your clothes on.
What?
That's what this movie is. There's so many metaphors.
There was never anyone in this movie in their underwear because it's PG-13 trash.
Well, all I'm saying is this movie just doesn't have much to it, and they need to go back to the drawing board, rip it apart, and start over again, and to bring back Jared Leto, and you might want to change the rest of the cast.
Yeah, recast everyone. Don't tokenize them, and that's that.
Okay.
So
goodbye,
goodbye.
everybody.